At my sister's glamorous engagement party, she accused me of faking my disability in front of everyone, then grabbed me to prove it, and that single moment destroyed her entire future instead of mine. I never imagined the line that would change the course of my life would be spoken between the clinking of crystal glasses and the heavy perfume of imported roses, but there it is, burned into my memory like a brand. My sister Elena's voice, crisp and bright as always, yet sharpened with the kind of venom only someone who's known you your whole life can deliver with surgical precision. Stop faking it, Maya. Stand up. Right now. I was sitting in my wheelchair, my forced companion for the last 2 years, parked near the center of the botanical garden she'd rented for her engagement celebration. Everything sparkled. Everything was curated. Everything was perfect. Except me. I was the dark smudge on her pastel-colored masterpiece, the one element she could neither Photoshop nor politely usher out of frame. My wheelchair was graphite black, a sleek, custom one I'd saved for months to afford, but apparently too industrial-looking for the engagement aesthetic she'd been preaching about for weeks. I had shown up with one simple hope: to not disturb anything. To blend in. To offer support, even though the past few months had been an exhausting river of microaggressions, avoided invitations, and heavy, uncomfortable silences. My injury, my spinal cord injury that had left me paralyzed from the waist down, was something my family tolerated the way people tolerate whether they don't like. They complained about it, pretended it wasn't happening, and blamed me for not making it easier on them. But even I didn't expect what happened next. I'd noticed her eyes flicking toward me throughout the evening, her tight smile slipping every time a photographer's lens drifted near my direction. She wanted the night to be perfect, a fairy tale she could post online, and having a disabled sister apparently didn't fit the vibe. Still, I thought I could manage. I thought I could stay small, quiet, supportive. I was wrong. Because the moment the photographer called our family to the stage for a group photo, that's when everything snapped. Elena didn't just ask me to move, she demanded that I stand, in front of 100 guests, as if I'd been choosing not to walk for fun. And when I refused, calmly, explaining my injury like I'd done 100 times before, she grabbed me. She actually put her hands under my arms and yanked. And that one violent, reckless motion, me falling, people screaming, glass shattering, ended her picture-perfect night. And the life she thought she deserved. People assume that when you lose the use of your legs, you lose everything at once: your identity, your independence, your future. But the truth is quieter than that. What you actually lose first is momentum. Life becomes a series of stops, pauses, and negotiations, little moments where you have to ask yourself, how do I do this now? How do I keep going? And that slow, grinding adjustment doesn't just affect you, it exposes everyone around you, stripping away their patience, their empathy, and sometimes their love. My accident happened 2 years before my sister's engagement party. A distracted driver blew through a red light and hit my car hard enough to shove the frame into my spine. The T9 vertebra took the worst of it, that single shatter that changed everything. I woke up in a hospital bed, bright lights overhead, a halo of unfamiliar faces, and a doctor explaining gently, clinically, that I wouldn't walk again. Not without a miracle. Not with the damage they saw on the scans. My mother cried for exactly 8 seconds. Then she asked the doctor whether I would still be able to look normal in a dress. My father stood by the window, jaw tight, like he was listening to numbers on a stock report rather than learning about his eldest daughter's paralysis. Elena, my younger sister by 4 years, didn't say anything at all. She stared at me the way someone stares at a spilled drink, annoyed that it happened, annoyed that it interrupted her night, annoyed that someone had to clean it up. That moment became the blueprint for the next 2 years. My parents helped with logistics when they had to, insurance paperwork, doctor appointments, but emotionally, they stepped back. Way back. They didn't like the word disabled. They didn't like wheelchairs, ramps, or doctors explaining things they didn't want to hear. They wanted me to stay positive, but never acknowledged what had actually happened. Elena, meanwhile, reinvented the story entirely. She told friends, extended family, even passing acquaintances that my injury wasn't that severe, and that Maya just needs to try harder. According to her, physical therapy was optional, and I was leaning into the wheelchair too much, as if paralysis were a bad habit. Her reasoning was always absurd, yet somehow confidently delivered. You were an athlete. You can't just stop using your muscles. Look at people on YouTube, some of them walk again. You don't want to be dependent on a chair forever, do you? What she meant was, I don't want to look like the sister of someone in a wheelchair. My life changed dramatically after the accident, but in ways that surprised even me. For the first time, I lived alone, in a small but accessible apartment across from the rehab center. I had rails in the bathroom, widened door frames, lowered counters. My space was simple, functional, and, unlike my family's home, peaceful. I worked remotely as a freelance copywriter, building a modest but stable income. I had routines, morning stretches, upper body exercises, online client meetings, therapy sessions. My apartment wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. My life wasn't easy, but it was honest. The engagement party entered my world like a glitter bomb thrown through a window, loud, messy, impossible to ignore. Elena called me one Sunday afternoon, voice bubbly and practiced. Maya. I have big news. Lorenzo proposed. We're having an engagement party in December. You have to be there. Her tone wasn't the tone of someone inviting a beloved sister. It was the tone of someone notifying a problematic relative she couldn't avoid. I congratulated her sincerely. Despite everything, I still felt that old, heavy obligation to protect her, to support her, to make things easy for her. She'd been the golden child our entire lives, prettier, more social, adored by our parents, and I'd played the role of the responsible one, the peacekeeper. The accident didn't erase that conditioning. But my relief that she actually wanted me at the party faded fast. She sent the dress code via text, soft pastels only, nothing bold or dark. And nothing bulky. I could already feel the pressure between the lines. She meant my wheelchair. She meant my body. She meant anything that didn't fit her curated aesthetic. I chose a pale lavender dress that draped beautifully when I sat. I even bought a shawl that matched the color palette she'd sent, a mood board full of blush pinks, creams, and delicate golds. The only thing I couldn't change was my wheelchair. The frame was dark, that's how it had to be for durability and cost. I'd saved months for that chair. I wasn't about to repaint it for her party. The venue was an expansive botanical garden rented after hours, an expensive, extravagant choice. Her fiancé came from a wealthy family in real estate, and Elena had quickly adopted their taste for dramatic gestures. When I arrived that evening, the sun was setting behind glass conservatories filled with orchids and warm string lights. A valet directed cars toward the main entrance, a set of grand marble stairs leading to the terrace. When he saw me rolling toward him, his smile flickered, hesitant. Oh, you'll need to use the service ramp. It's around the back. I knew that tone. Not malicious, but apologetic on someone else's behalf. So I circled around the building as instructed. The ramp was steep and dimly lit, lined with storage crates and trash bins. A catering worker opened the heavy side door for me, avoiding eye contact as if embarrassed that I had to enter this way. Inside, I navigated through a narrow hallway that smelled like bleach. When I finally emerged into the golden glow of the event, it felt like stepping onto a stage I hadn't auditioned for. My mother spotted me first. "There you are," she said, adjusting her champagne flute. "Try to stick to the outer edges, okay?" There are decorations everywhere. Translation: please don't be visible. But the truth? I was used to that. Used to being the person who made other people uncomfortable just by existing visibly. I took a breath, straightened my posture, and rolled forward into the glittering crowd, determined, for once, to just be there. To witness, not apologize. To be part of the family, even if they wished I weren't. I didn't know yet that the night would break everything open, every lie, every façade, every poisonous story my family had told about me. But I could feel something shifting already. The air was too sweet. The smiles too tight. The glances toward me too frequent. And Elena hadn't even come over to greet me yet. That was the first sign things were going to go very, very wrong. I didn't expect the first blow of the evening to come disguised as a compliment. But that was how things usually worked in my family, cruelty wrapped in satin, handed to me with a smile sharp enough to cut. I had been at the engagement party for maybe 15 minutes when Elena finally approached. She floated toward me like she owned the air around her, her pastel blue gown catching the light with every step. She looked beautiful, objectively speaking. And she knew it. She always did. "Maya," she said, leaning down to kiss the air near my cheeks, careful not to smudge her makeup. "You made it. There was a slight emphasis on you, like my presence required an extra miracle." "I told you I'd be here," I said. My tone was calm. Polite. Neutral. I'd trained myself to speak that way around her. She took a half step back and studied me. "No, not me. The wheelchair." "Oh," she breathed, her face tightening just slightly. "You brought that one." I blinked. "This is the only one I have." "Yes, I know," she said quickly, glancing around to make sure no one overheard. "It's just the color. It's a bit harsh for the theme. I was thinking the silver one you used to rent would have looked softer in photos." "That rental chair weighs twice as much as this one," I reminded her. "I can't maneuver it without help." She shrugged, unimpressed by my reality. Still, it photographed better. There it was, the first injustice of the night. Small, but cutting. She didn't see my wheelchair as medical equipment. She saw it as a prop. An accessory. Something I should modify to protect her aesthetic. I opened my mouth to respond, but she rushed ahead. "Anyway, can you try not to roll over the flower runners?" The florist was very specific about the layout. "I'll stay aware," I said. "Don't worry." "Oh, I'm not worried," she said. "I just don't want people tripping on anything. Especially if they're distracted." She meant me. She always meant me. Before I could reply, my mother appeared at her shoulder with the same rehearsed smile she wore like a uniform at social events. "There you are, sweetheart," she said to Elena, then turned to me with a softer, fake warmth. "Maya, darling, could you maybe tuck your chair a little closer to the wall? People need to move freely." I looked around. I wasn't blocking anyone. I wasn't even near a high-traffic area. They just didn't want me visible. "I'm fine where I am," I said gently. "If it gets crowded, I'll adjust." My mother's smile thinned. "We're just trying to keep the space flowing." I didn't argue. Not because I agreed, but because I'd learned that pushing back only made me difficult. And being labeled difficult was worse, in my family, than being hurt. They drifted away to greet new guests, leaving me with the faint, lingering scent of judgment behind them. I tried to focus on the good things, the soft music from the string quartet, the lanterns swaying lightly overhead, the hum of conversation. I sipped the sparkling water I'd requested from a passing server and did my best to ground myself. But I kept noticing the way people glanced at me. Not directly, not rudely, just sideways. Curious. Confused. Almost pitying. At first I assumed it was just the usual reaction people have around wheelchairs. But it felt heavier. More pointed. Like they already had a story in their heads. That suspicion grew when I overheard two guests whispering near the dessert table. "Is that her?" one woman murmured. "Elena's sister?" "The one in the chair?" the other asked. "No, the one," she said. Their voices dropped, but their eyes flicked toward me. I felt that old familiar squeeze in my chest. The feeling of being talked about rather than spoken to. A few minutes later, I caught a different conversation between two groomsmen near the bar. "I heard she used to be, like, super athletic," one said. "Yeah, Elena told me. Said the doctors can't figure out why she's not back on her feet yet." My stomach tightened. That wasn't just a misunderstanding, that was a lie. A dangerous one. I rolled toward the edge of the celebration, away from the clusters of people, and took a slow breath. My sister had always manipulated narratives to suit her needs, but implying my paralysis was somehow voluntary? That crossed a line I didn't even know she'd approach. I wasn't prepared for how far she'd already taken it. A few minutes later, a tall, elegant woman approached me. I recognized her from photos, Lorenzo's mother, Amelia. She wore a champagne-colored gown and carried herself with the effortless grace of old money. "Hi," she said kindly. "You must be Maya." "Yes, that's me," I replied. "It's nice to meet you." "I'm glad you could make it," she said, then hesitated. "I wasn't sure you'd be comfortable attending, given everything." I tilted my head. "Everything? Oh." She glanced away briefly. "I just mean, what Elena told us." My pulse quickened. "And what did she tell you?" Amelia looked uneasy, as if she'd accidentally stepped somewhere she shouldn't. "Only that your condition is complicated. And that it's difficult to know what's medical and what's emotional." I felt heat rise up my neck. "My spinal cord injury isn't emotional," I said quietly. Her eyes widened, and she straightened, as if realizing she'd been fed something false. Before she could respond, Elena swooped in like she had radar for uncomfortable truths. "Mom." "Oh, there you are," she said brightly to Amelia, looping her arm through hers. "Sorry, Maya tends to over-explain things. We're working on it." She shot me a warning look, then steered Amelia away. In that moment, something inside me wilted, and something else hardened. I had spent 2 years rebuilding myself, learning to navigate the world in a wheelchair, relearning bathroom routines, cooking techniques, physical therapy regimens, ways to protect my skin, ways to preserve my dignity. All of that work, real, painful work, was being erased by my own sister in a single night. But the worst moment of the first injustice was still coming. It happened when the photographer approached to organize the early group photos. Families were gathering, laughing, adjusting their outfits, touching up their lipstick. When he reached our family, he smiled at me warmly. "Of course we'll fit you right here in front," he said. "Perfect height balance." Before I could thank him, Elena stepped forward. "Actually," she said quickly, "we were thinking she could sit in one of the chairs instead." I froze. The chairs behind the camera were decorative, high-backed, soft-cushioned, and completely unusable for someone with no trunk stability. "I can't use those chairs," I said. My voice was calm but firm. "I don't have the core support." "It's one picture," Elena whispered sharply. "Just try." "I could fall," I said. "I need the wheelchair for support." Her smile dropped, her mask cracked for just a second. "Maya, stop being dramatic. It's not that deep." My mother chimed in from the side, "Honey, just cooperate. It's Elena's night." The photographer looked uncomfortable. We can absolutely do the photo with the wheelchair, he said gently. It's no problem. But Elena shot him a glare that could curdle milk. No, she said. This is supposed to look elegant. I felt every muscle in my upper body tighten. My wheelchair is not inelegant, I said. Maya, she hissed, please don't make a scene. I wasn't making a scene. I was refusing to be unsafe. But in my family, those two things were the same. That was the first injustice of the night, the one that told me, unmistakably, that my sister didn't just resent my disability. She was willing to erase it entirely. Even if it meant erasing me with it. If the first injustice felt like a warning shot, the rest of the evening unfolded like a slow, deliberate tightening of a noose, one I hadn't realized had been placed around my neck the moment I rolled through the service entrance. After the failed attempt to force me into a decorative chair, the photographer, kind, patient, clearly uncomfortable, suggested we regroup in 10 minutes. Elena plastered on a smile and told him, absolutely, we'll sort everything out, before turning that same smile into a blade and driving it into me. I don't understand why you're being so difficult, she whispered, still pretending to fix a curl near my forehead for the crowd's benefit. I'm not being difficult, I said. I'm telling you a medical fact. She stepped back, eyes narrowing. Have you ever thought about how this looks? My sister can't even sit in a regular chair. People are going to think we staged the whole setup wrong. I don't care what people think, I said. Of course you don't, she snapped. You don't have anything to lose. The words landed like a fist. Because she knew exactly what I'd lost. After that, Elena drifted off to greet guests again, her real audience, and I made my way toward the far end of the terrace, near a cluster of tall heaters. I needed air. Or space. Or maybe just 10 seconds where no one looked at me like a problem that needed solving. But the glances kept coming. Half smiles. Raised eyebrows. Whispered questions. None of it overtly cruel, but I could feel the weight of the lies my sister had seeded. They wrapped around me like invisible threads. I couldn't see them, but I felt them pulling, tightening, drawing curious eyes in my direction. At one point, a young woman, maybe a cousin of Lorenzo's, approached me timidly. Hi, she said softly. I'm sorry to bother you. I just wanted to ask, is it true you might be walking again soon? I blinked. Where did you hear that? Oh, she said, flustered. Elena mentioned that your injury wasn't permanent. That you're just waiting for the right moment. She said you're afraid of falling in public, so you'd rather not try. I stared at her, the words hitting me like icy wind. Not permanent. Afraid to try. Waiting for the right moment. As if walking were a mood. A performance. A choice. No, I said calmly. That's not accurate. Oh, she said again, her cheeks turning pink. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, you didn't do anything wrong, I reassured her. You were given bad information. She nodded, clearly uncomfortable, and walked away. My heart pounded, slow but heavy. Elena wasn't just bending the truth tonight, she was constructing an alternate reality. A dangerous one. One where my paralysis was simply optional. Every time someone looked at me, whispered, or asked a question, the narrative tightened. About 30 minutes later, I spotted the bride-to-be herself leaning over a table, whispering into the ear of one of Lorenzo's business partners, an older man in a tux. He nodded along, then stole a long, appraising look at me. Another seed planted. I didn't know exactly what she was saying, but I knew enough to guess the theme: Maya is emotional. Maya is exaggerating. Maya doesn't want to walk because she likes the sympathy. The kind of poison that spreads easily in wealthy circles, where image is currency and disabilities are viewed as inconveniences, not realities. I could feel myself shrinking inside my own skin. Not physically, my posture was tall, my shoulders strong from years of pushing my chair, but emotionally, the humiliation crept around me like rising fog. I hated how familiar that feeling was. The night deepened. The lights grew warmer, the music shifted from strings to a curated playlist of trendy acoustic covers. Guests moved through the venue like drifting clouds, laughing, drinking, posing for pictures. And through it all, little by little, I felt myself becoming a spectacle. Not because of anything I did, but because of what Elena wanted them to believe. At one point, I overheard two guests near the centerpiece table. "Honestly, I think it's psychological," one woman said. "Some people just can't let go of trauma. Or they get attached to the attention," her companion added. "And who can blame them? People bend over backward to help." They both looked directly at me. My stomach twisted. I turned away, rolling toward the quieter entrance of the indoor conservatory. Inside, the air was warm and scented with soil and orchids. For a moment, I let myself breathe. I hated crying in public, and I wasn't going to now. But the pressure behind my eyes felt like a dam threatening to crack. I stayed there for a few minutes, grounding myself, letting my heart settle. I could handle stares. I could handle whispers. I had handled worse on hospital beds, therapy tables, and long nights alone. But I didn't know how to handle the betrayal of my own family rewriting my reality in real time. When I rolled back outside, the party had reached a new level of chaos. The official family portrait session had begun. Perfect. Elena was already on the raised platform near the champagne tower, gathering relatives into neat rows. Photographers adjusted lights, assistants fixed stray hairs and dress folds. People moved with the clumsy choreography of a staged event. "Maya," my mother called. "Come. They're ready." I rolled toward the platform, but before I could reach the ramp, Elena stepped down in front of me, blocking my way. Her smile was brittle. "We're doing the standing shots first. Can you wait until those are done? It'll only take a minute or two." "That's fine," I said. "I can wait." But then she leaned in close, voice hushed and urgent. "And when it's your turn, can you try to stand? Just for a second?" My heart thudded. "No," I said. "It doesn't have to be perfect," she whispered. "Just enough so it doesn't look like you're refusing." "I am refusing," I said. "Because I physically can't." She clenched her jaw, frustration bubbling beneath her flawless makeup. "You're ruining the flow," she hissed. "The flow?" I echoed. "Elena, these are pictures. Not a military operation." She took a slow breath, smoothing her expression before the photographer could see the cracks. "We'll talk later," she muttered. She turned to climb back up, but froze when one of Lorenzo's aunts, an elegant woman with silver hair, approached us. "Is everything all right?" she asked. Elena's smile returned instantly. "Of course. Just organizing." But the aunt wasn't looking at her. She was looking at me. "Do you need any assistance getting onto the platform?" she asked gently. "No," I said. "There's a ramp on the side. I'll use that when they're ready." "Oh good," she said. I wasn't sure they'd considered accessibility for tonight. "I'm happy to help advocate if needed." Elena stiffened. The word advocate was like a match thrown into dry leaves. "Everything is perfect," she said sharply. "No need for that." The aunt raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Accessibility is never a bother," she said. "It's simply part of being thoughtful." Then she walked away. And Elena looked like she wanted to scream. By the time they finished the standing photos, I could feel the tension in the air like static. Elena kept glancing at me, jaw tight. My parents avoided my eyes altogether. When the photographer gestured for me to join the next set, Elena whispered, "Please don't do anything to draw attention." "I'm literally sitting," I said. She ignored that. The photographer positioned everyone, then looked to me with a reassuring nod. "Great, Maya, right in front works perfectly." I maneuvered my chair into place, but before he lifted the camera, Elena stepped forward. "Wait," she said. "Can we angle her chair a bit more to the side?" I sighed. "I can move slightly, but don't push it." "My balance, I know," she snapped. "I know your balance. Just move a little." I adjusted a few inches. "That's too much," she said instantly. "Back a bit." I moved back a couple inches. "Now it's too centered. Maybe shift left?" The photographer winced. "It's okay," he said gently. "She's perfectly positioned." But Elena wasn't listening. She was spiraling. And everyone was watching. She stepped behind me suddenly, her hands brushing the handles of my wheelchair. "Let me help," she said. "Don't touch my chair," I warned quietly. "Seriously." "Oh my God, Maya, stop." "Elena," the photographer interjected, "it's fine." "Really?" But she waved him off. Then came the moment that shifted the entire night into a darker gear. She leaned forward and whispered into my ear, her voice sharp enough to pierce bone. "People are already saying you're milking this. Don't prove them right." My breath froze in my lungs. I knew then, fully, painfully, that she wasn't just annoyed. She was angry. Angry that my injury inconvenienced her. Angry that I ruined her aesthetic. Angry that I refused to play along with the fantasy she was selling. And angry that reality itself didn't bend to her will. That was when the whispers around the room felt less like misunderstandings and more like echoes of something she'd been cultivating for months. But I still didn't know the full extent of her malice. Not yet. The real escalation, the one that would lead to the fall, the glass, the hospital, the police, was still minutes away. But I could feel it coming. Like thunder before a storm. Like pressure before a bone breaks. Like the moment a person stops pretending to be reasonable and shows you exactly who they are. And Elena was about to show everyone. In the cruelest way possible. The moment everything shifted, the exact second the night stopped being a performance and became something raw, dangerous, and undeniable, happened faster than I could process. It began with a voice. A clear, professional, unmistakably authoritative voice cutting through the chatter just as Elena reached for me again, her fingers curling around my forearm like she had every right to touch me. "Stop," the woman said sharply. "Do not do that." The entire group turned. Standing a few feet away was a woman in an elegant navy gown, her hair silver and neatly pinned. She didn't look frazzled or hesitant, she looked furious in that quiet, controlled way only a medical professional can be when they see someone doing something catastrophically dangerous. I recognized her only vaguely from earlier. One of Lorenzo's relatives, I thought. But now she stepped forward with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. "Elena," she said, "take your hands off your sister. Now." Elena blinked, stunned. I was helping her adjust." "No," the woman said, her voice ice cold. "You were destabilizing her. And given her spinal history, that's not just reckless. That's dangerous." My heart skipped. Spinal history. Elena swallowed hard. "What spinal history?" "She's fine. She's just," the woman cut her off. "Don't lie." I reviewed her case. The world fell silent. "What?" Elena whispered. The woman turned to me, then back to the crowd. I'm Dr. Marin Solis, neurosurgeon. And I recognized Maya's surgical scar earlier tonight when she adjusted her shawl. My breath caught. She wasn't just a doctor. She was the Dr. Solis, the one who had assisted in emergency spinal stabilization surgeries at the hospital where I'd been treated after the accident. I hadn't seen her in years, but I remembered her reputation: precise, blunt, brilliant. The kind of doctor other doctors deferred to. I treated a patient with her exact injury profile 2 years ago, Dr. Solis continued. T9 vertebral burst fracture, compromised spinal cord, permanent loss of motor function below the level of injury. The fact that she is even sitting upright independently is the result of hard work and significant upper body rehabilitation. People around us gasped softly. She was saying the thing no one in my family had ever said in public. She was validating my reality. And she was doing it loudly enough that everyone heard. Elena's face drained of color. She's exaggerating. She doesn't need. Dr. Solis stepped closer, her voice tightening. If you grab a paraplegic person by the arms and pull, you risk dislocating their shoulders, causing spinal shock, or triggering dangerous falls. What you just did, she said slowly, was an assault. The word assault seemed to echo across the courtyard. I felt Elena tense beside me, her fingernails digging into her palm. I didn't assault anyone, she snapped. She can walk if she wants to. She doesn't try. A murmur rolled through the crowd, startled, confused, shifting from doubt to disbelief. Dr. Solis turned to the audience. No. She cannot walk. Not now. Not without medical breakthroughs that don't currently exist. And whoever told you otherwise is either lying or catastrophically uninformed. My mother stepped forward then, her voice trembling. Doctor, this is a misunderstanding. Elena was just trying to help with photos. Maya can be very sensitive. Dr. Solis' eyes hardened. This isn't sensitivity. This is physics. The human body cannot do what you're implying hers can. She kneeled beside me then, speaking softly in a tone meant only for me. Maya, are you dizzy? Losing sensation? Any sharp pain? I swallowed. My left wrist took a minor twist when she grabbed me. And I felt off balance for a second. She nodded. Okay. We need to check your spine. Right here. Don't move. The shift was immediate. This wasn't a party anymore. It was a medical emergency. Guests stepped back. Several people pulled out their phones, not to film, thank God, but to call for help. Someone shouted for paramedics. Someone else yelled to turn down the music. And then, another twist I didn't expect. Lorenzo stepped forward. He looked at me with horror, like something inside him was breaking. Then he turned to his fiancée, my sister, with a face I had never seen on him before. Elena, he said quietly. Did you tell them she was faking? Elena's mouth trembled. I just said she had potential. That she wasn't trying. His voice turned cold. Why would you say that? Because it's true, she shouted. She makes everything about her. Even tonight. Dr. Solis straightened. I need room, she announced. No one touches her except me. My mother stepped forward again. We should just move her to a more private spot. Don't move her, Dr. Solis snapped. If her spine is destabilized, movement could cause permanent damage. You will wait until EMS arrives. My father, usually the stoic one, suddenly looked small. Is it that serious? He asked. Yes, Dr. Solis said. And the fact that her own family doesn't understand her injury is what disturbs me most. The air around us felt electric. Heavy. Truth was unfolding too fast for anyone to catch their breath. But one final twist punched through the chaos. Dr. Solis looked directly at Elena. You do understand that intentionally pulling a disabled person out of their mobility device is classified as aggravated assault under state law, correct? Someone gasped. Someone else whispered, "Oh my God." Elena's face twisted. This is ridiculous. She's my sister, I can touch her however I want. No, Dr. Solis said firmly. You cannot. Then she delivered the sentence that froze the entire party in place. And I will be speaking to the police when they arrive. Everything stopped. My heart. My breath. Every conversation around us. Because for the first time ever, someone with authority was choosing me over my sister. Someone was refusing to let the lies stand. Someone was saying out loud what I had lived with in silence. And the entire room believed her. Not Elena. Her. The balance of power had shifted. And it had shifted in my favor. The paramedics arrived within 10 minutes, though to me it felt like an hour suspended in thick, buzzing air. Guests parted silently as the emergency team wheeled a stretcher toward me. The music had stopped completely. Lights still twinkled, candles still flickered, but the entire engagement party had frozen around me like a tableau of shock and disbelief. As the paramedics examined my spine and stabilized my chair, Dr. Solis briefed them with crisp, authoritative precision. T9 incomplete paraplegia. She was pulled forcibly from her wheelchair. Possible wrist strain, potential spinal shock. Cervical alignment appears stable, but we need imaging. They nodded, already following her lead. Elena stood a few feet away, pale and trembling, not with fear for me, but with anger at losing control of the narrative. This is insane, she muttered. You're blowing everything out of proportion. She just fell. People fall all the time. One of the paramedics turned to her. Ma'am, based on witness statements and the mechanism of injury, this is being treated as an assault. Witness statements, she repeated, her voice cracking. What witnesses? The answer came from behind her. I saw the whole thing, said a calm, steady voice. We all turned. It was one of Lorenzo's business partners, the older man she had whispered to earlier in the evening. He looked at Elena with a mixture of disappointment and disgust. You grabbed her, he said. You pulled her out of the chair. Purposefully. Another voice chimed in, a catering staff member near the bar. I got part of it on video, she said nervously. I didn't mean to film it, I was recording the decorations and it happened in the background. That was the moment Elena's face truly changed, not anger now, but fear. Real fear. Delete it, she snapped. That's private. You can't record my event without my consent. It's evidence, the staff member said quietly. And the police already asked me to preserve it. My mother gasped. The police? And as if summoned by her panic, 2 uniformed officers stepped through the crowd and approached. The taller officer nodded toward me. We received a call about a possible assault involving a disabled individual. Who here is the victim? I raised my hand slightly, though the paramedic gently lowered it. That's me, I said. And the alleged assailant? A dozen eyes turned toward Elena. She took a step back. I didn't do anything wrong. She's my sister. One officer responded calmly. A familial relationship doesn't preclude criminal responsibility. My father stepped forward, his voice strained. Officer, this is a misunderstanding. A private matter. Surely we can handle this as a family. No, Dr. Solis said sharply. You tried that. It didn't work. The younger officer addressed me gently. Ma'am, are you able to provide a statement now, or would you prefer to do so once you're at the hospital? I can talk, I said. My voice felt steady in a way I hadn't expected. Because for the first time in 2 years, I wasn't alone. I described what happened clearly and honestly, how Elena insisted I stand, how she ignored my medical limitations, how she grabbed me without warning, and how I fell. The officers listened carefully, taking notes. One of them then turned to Elena. Based on the victim's statement, witness accounts, and video evidence, we will be forwarding this to the prosecutor's office. You are not under arrest at this moment, but you may be contacted for further questioning. Do not leave town without notifying us. My engagement party, she whispered, as if that mattered more than my broken body. But something in her cracked deeper. She looked at Lorenzo, seeking support. He didn't move toward her. Instead, he turned to me, eyes full of guilt. Maya, he said softly. I didn't know. I truly didn't know she was telling people those things about you. It's not your fault, I said. But Elena snapped at him. Don't believe her. She's manipulating everyone. She loves being the victim. Enough, he said sharply. Stop. His tone silenced her. And then came twist number 2, the one that finally made everything collapse. The older officer approached me again. Miss, given the elements involved, this will likely be classified as aggravated assault due to your disability status. You may be entitled to a protective order and restitution. A prosecutor will contact you. Restitution. A word with weight. A word that meant accountability in dollars as well as consequences. Elena's eyes widened. Restitution? She's going to sue me now? The officer didn't answer. He didn't need to. The possibility hovered in the air like a storm cloud. They transported me to the hospital for imaging. Dr. Solis rode with me in the ambulance, something she didn't have to do, but did anyway. In the quiet, humming space, I finally let myself breathe. You handled yourself well tonight, she said. You spoke clearly and stood your ground. I didn't feel like I was standing, I joked weakly. She gave a small smile. You know what I mean. My throat tightened. Do you think she'll face actual charges? I think she should, she said. What she did was dangerous. And what she's been saying about you is even more dangerous. Lies like hers make the world harder for every disabled person. I swallowed hard. I don't want revenge. Good, she said. This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. The word felt heavy. True. At the hospital, the scans confirmed no new spinal damage, just bruising, a strained wrist, and inflamed muscle groups from the sudden fall. It would take weeks to fully recover, but my paralysis remained unchanged. And strangely, that fact comforted me. I wasn't worse off. But Elena was. 3 days later, the prosecutor called. We have compelling evidence, she said. Strong witness statements, medical testimony, video footage, and a documented history of your disability. If this goes to trial, your sister faces up to 5 years due to the aggravated factor. My breath hitched. 5 years? That's the maximum, she clarified. But likely less. Unless she accepts a plea deal. What kind of deal? A formal guilty plea to misdemeanor assault, probation, mandatory counseling, and financial restitution. Given the video, she'd be smart to take it. Restitution again. That word. How much? I asked quietly. The prosecutor hesitated, then said, we can request full compensation for your medical bills from the incident, plus damages for emotional distress, plus accessibility equipment upgrades. You could seek anywhere from $50,000 to over $200,000. I closed my eyes. It wasn't about the money. It was about finally being seen. Being believed. Being valued. That's when my plan began to form, not out of spite, not out of vengeance, but out of clarity. I wouldn't protect Elena anymore. I wouldn't make myself small to keep peace that never truly existed. I wouldn't swallow the lies to keep her reputation intact. My plan was simple: tell the truth. All of it. Let the legal system do its job. Accept restitution so I could rebuild my life without fear or dependence. Cut ties that had been strangling me for years. For once, I would choose myself. And that choice would change everything. The day of Elena's plea hearing arrived colder than expected, a sharp, gray morning that made the city feel heavier than usual. I sat outside the courthouse in my wheelchair, wrapped in a soft charcoal coat, watching people hurry past with coffee steaming in their hands. No one knew who I was. No one knew what had happened. And for the first time in years, I felt strangely protected by that anonymity. I wasn't here to destroy my sister's life. I was here to stop her from destroying mine. Inside, the courthouse smelled like old wood and paperwork, sterile, official, familiar in a way I never wanted it to be. My lawyer, a calm woman named Avery, met me at the entrance. "Are you all right?" she asked. "I'm ready," I said. And I meant it. We rolled into the small courtroom together. It wasn't dramatic: no jury, no packed benches, no gasps or outbursts. Just a judge, 2 attorneys, a stenographer, and a handful of observers. But the simplicity made it feel sharper, like every word mattered more. Elena was already there. My sister sat stiffly at the defendant's table, hands clasped too tightly in her lap. She wore a soft gray dress, understated, almost meek, a noticeable departure from her usual pastel perfection. Her makeup was minimal. Her hair wasn't professionally styled. For once, she didn't look like she belonged on a magazine cover. She looked like a person facing consequences. Our eyes met, and for a moment, something flickered in her expression: fear, resentment, confusion, maybe all of them at once. But she quickly looked away. Her lawyer leaned toward her, whispering instructions she didn't seem to hear. Avery moved beside me. "Remember, you don't need to speak unless the judge asks you something. The deal is already drafted. The plea deal. The one Elena didn't want but had no choice but to accept. A formal guilty plea to misdemeanor assault. 1 year of probation. Mandatory counseling. $220,000 in restitution, covering medical costs, therapy, adaptive equipment, lost income, and emotional damages." When the number was first proposed, Elena had screamed at her lawyer. My parents had called me repeatedly, demanding I lower it, accusing me of greed, betrayal, cruelty. But Avery had been right from the start: this isn't punishment. It's compensation. You deserve safety and independence. So I held my ground. And here we were. The judge entered. We stood, or, in my case, remained seated, but the energy shifted instantly. Everything felt colder. Clearer. Official. After formalities, the judge addressed Elena directly. "Miss Bellini, you are here to enter a plea to the charge of misdemeanor assault, involving a disabled family member. The court has reviewed the evidence, including the video, medical reports, and witness testimony. How do you plead?" The room held its breath. Elena's voice, normally bright and confident, sounded small. "Guilty, Your Honor." A strange sensation washed through me, not triumph, not joy, just relief. Like a weight I'd been carrying for years had loosened its grip. The judge nodded. "This court accepts your plea. Before sentencing, the victim has the right to provide a statement." "Miss Bellini," he turned to me, would you like to speak? Avery leaned down. It's optional. Only if you want to. I paused. Then nodded. I didn't come for revenge. But I did come to be heard. Avery rolled me forward slightly so the judge could see me clearly. I took a breath. My name is Maya, I began. 2 years ago, I survived a car accident that changed my life. I lost the ability to walk. I lost my sense of safety. I lost control over a lot of the things I used to take for granted. My voice stayed steady, surprising even me. But what hurt the most wasn't the paralysis. It was the way my family responded to it. The way they minimized it. Ignored it. Rewrote it into a problem that was somehow my fault. I didn't look at Elena directly, but I felt her stiffen. My sister spent months telling people I was exaggerating, that I was choosing my wheelchair, that I was doing it for attention. Those lies hurt me in ways I can't fully explain. They isolated me. They made me doubt myself. And at her engagement party, those lies nearly caused real physical harm. I paused, feeling the quiet around me grow heavier. When she grabbed me that night, she wasn't just trying to fix a photo. She was trying to force me into her version of reality. One where my disability didn't exist unless it was convenient. That moment wasn't just painful, it was terrifying. I steadied my breathing before continuing. I don't want my sister in jail. I don't want to ruin her life. I want her to face the consequences of her actions, the same way I've had to face mine. I want her to understand the damage she's done, not just to my body, but to my heart. My voice softened. And I want peace. For the first time in a long time. The judge nodded slowly. Thank you, Miss Bellini. Your statement is acknowledged. A few minutes later, he read the official terms of the plea deal into the record. Elena accepted each one with a quiet, shaky, "Yes, Your Honor." When it was over, the courtroom emptied slowly. I remained in place, letting the room settle around me. Elena lingered by the side door, torn between approaching me and escaping. Finally, she stepped closer. "Maya," she said softly. I didn't think it would go this far." I met her eyes. "I didn't think you'd push me out of my chair." Her face crumbled for just a second, genuine emotion, raw and unshielded, but then she looked away. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Perhaps she meant it. Perhaps she didn't. But either way, it wasn't enough to reverse what happened. And it wasn't enough to rebuild anything between us. "I hope you learn from this," I said quietly. "I really do." She nodded, tears threatening but not falling, then turned and walked out of the courtroom. It felt like watching the final page of a chapter close. Not with satisfaction. Not with rage. But with completion. Avery placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing." For the first time, I said, "I think I believe that." Because justice had been served, not just legally, but emotionally. My story wasn't a secret anymore. My pain wasn't invisible. My life wasn't disposable. For the first time, I felt the ground beneath me, figuratively, at least, steady. And I finally allowed myself to imagine a future that belonged to me. 2 years later, I wake up to the sound of waves, not traffic, not hospital machines, not the heavy silence of my old family home. Real waves, rolling against a rocky shoreline just outside my window. The air smells like salt and sun-warmed stone, and when I breathe it in, it fills a part of me I once thought was permanently empty. I live on the Oregon coast now, in a small, accessible cottage with wide hallways, lowered countertops, and huge windows that look out over the water. I chose every detail myself. I paid for it myself, thanks to the restitution money, smart budgeting, and finally allowing myself to build a life that didn't revolve around surviving someone else's expectations. My mornings are quiet and steady. I transfer into my chair, make coffee, stretch my shoulders, and open my laptop to write. Work is good, steady clients, meaningful projects, no more pushing myself to exhaustion to prove my worth. I roll outside often, following the paved path along the cliff, letting the sun rest against my face. No one stares at me here. No one whispers. People see me. Not my chair. Not my limitations. Not my family's narrative. Me. I have friends, a small, real, chosen family. There's Lila, my neighbor who brings me fresh sourdough every Sunday. There's Jonah, a physical therapist who's become one of my closest confidants. And there's Dr. Solis, who checks in every few months like some fierce guardian angel I never expected to have. These people don't tiptoe around my disability. They don't romanticize it. They simply accept it as one part of who I am. Last week, during a therapy session, something surprising happened. I felt a faint spark of sensation in my left foot. Not movement. Not control. Just a whisper of feeling, like a thread reconnecting. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I just smiled. Progress doesn't always shout. Sometimes it arrives like a soft tap on the shoulder, reminding you that you're still becoming. This morning, after my coffee, I check my mailbox. Inside is a single envelope with handwriting I haven't seen in a long time. Elena. I don't open it right away. I will myself to the lookout point behind my cottage, letting the wind lift my hair. Then, slowly, I open the letter. It's short. Apologetic. Careful. She writes about counseling, about regret, about wanting to rebuild something someday, if you ever feel ready. She says prison, yes, she served 6 months after violating her probation early on, changed her. She says she understands now what she didn't back then. I fold the letter quietly. I don't feel anger. I don't feel gloating. Just distance. A healthy one. A boundary earned, not built out of spite. I place the letter in a drawer, not to forget it, not to obsess over it, but simply to keep it where it belongs, in the past. As I sit there, the wind brushing against my shoulders, I realize something simple and profound. I didn't get my old life back. But I built a new one rooted in truth, in dignity, and in people who choose me without conditions. And when I turn my chair toward the path along the water, feeling the subtle strength in my arms, the freedom in my chest, the peace in my mind, I finally understand. Sometimes justice isn't about winning. It's about choosing yourself, no matter who it disappoints. And I chose right. I chose me. If you liked this story, feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next one.